with me if you want to live.
Hey kids, sit up and pay attention. It's time for Retrorific! Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about Terminator Salvation, which
The end begins.
The future begins with the end in the what now?
And if that gave you a headache, that's not the half of it with the time paradoxes of the brain is melting, we're trying to understand why this works.
Interestingly, this is 2009's second reboot prequel sequel.
Which completely contradicts the continuality of the existing universe.
So-
This doesn't do it as well as Star Trek did though.
Okay, so, before watching this film, I watched Terminator 3 again, and that rather improved the experience of watching Terminator Salvation.
To be fair, you could watch Starship Troopers 2 after watching that and it seemed like a masterpiece.
I think the main advice that both of us would give anyone who's going to watch this film is lower your expectations.
I actually liked it, but I thought I really wasn't going to like it. I think that's the only reason that I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And also, I've got the advantage of not having the Terminator series that, close up here.
I really do love the first two Terminator films, and I have to say, not great. This film's not great. I was kind of hoping for more. I really was.
Yeah, but let's face it, we were expecting more.
I wasn't expecting more, but I was hoping for more.
For what it is, as a decent summer blockbuster, action-packed, adventure, characters you won't give a shit about whether they live or die.
Yeah.
Or, like, for example, hi, John Connor's pregnant wife,
Who
apparently.
has 3 lines in the film.
Doesn't even have a name.
No one mentions her name, no one mentions the fact that she's pregnant, she just kind of wanders in and then wanders out again and nobody cares. So, my main feeling about this film, if I may be so blunt as to put it out there, and
Go for it.
my main feeling about this film is that this film doesn't know what it's trying to achieve. I felt like there are too many inconsistencies for it to be directly part of the original canon.
Yeah.
Right? There are too many contradictions and inconsistencies. It seems like it's trying to be a reboot to the franchise, a new film. But at the same time, there are so many moments in this film that are taken directly from the last 3 films. There are so many...
But that's exactly what Star Trek did, and actually succeeded and improved
Star
the
Trek
experience.
did it.
And
This
still
film-
integrated it into canon.
Yeah, Star Trek achieved that goal. This film does not.
Yeah.
Watching it, I felt like they had a checklist of, things that the fans will want to see. Arnie's face, tick. I'll be back, tick. Come with me if you want to live, tick. John Connor's scar, tick.
The Terminator films, it was about one specific goal. It was about getting to the future and all that kind of stuff. With them reaching that future, it's kind of meant that the whole point of the series is obsolete. It's all about John Connor, but now he's kind of like, okay, we're in the future. He's not really that great a leader. He just sits around doing radio broadcasts.
Such a dick.
But that's not the worst thing about this film, though. The worst thing is the fact that all the characters, there are 2 actors pulling their weight around royally, and that's Sam Worthington and Nuclear
Whistles
guy,
yeah.
who I can't
Anton
remember his name.
Yelchin.
I couldn't pronounce that even if I did know his name. But they're the only 2 people who do credible jobs in this film. All the others just don't really... there's some pretty big actors who are very good at what they do, who just turn up and do what they're meant to do and go home. The thing is, but the script really isn't inspiring. It's literally taking you from... It's just something to fill in the action scenes.
I'm going to write the script.
Although, while I do insult the script, the writers,
Yeah.
because, for fuck's sake, guys, I can't believe I'm going to actually say this. McGee did a credible job on the directing. I know, I can't actually believe I said that. I feel dirty. There's many flaws with this film, but some of the shots, most of the shots are averagely done. I'm not saying it's great, it's not a work of cinematographic.
Genius.
But it's not bad, and there's a couple of scenes which are actually quite good. Like there's one right at the beginning. There's a helicopter crash. It gets you really in there. It's not anything classic. It's not anything that hasn't been done before, but it's.
Unfortunately, it's then directly followed by Christian Bale doing his Batman voice. Okay, I, as a fan of this franchise, am going to go off on one, if I may.
I'm going to make myself a coffee.
Right. It annoyed me that they went down the nitty-gritty route, because there is an established visual style in these films, which is that the humans are nitty and gritty and the machines are shiny and new, which gives the machines the advantage and shows that the humans are losing the war, which is why they need to go back in time, which is why they need John Connor. If the humans are not losing the war, which they don't seem to be in this film, then they don't need John Connor, because, fuck him. Also, why did they spend half the film trying to save Kyle Reese? Because Kyle Reese is only necessary to save the future because he is John Connor's father, but in this film John Connor is still alive and he's in the future, so why did they need a new model? So they created this experimental Marcus Wright infiltration model, but in the film Marcus Wright appears before the T-800s have appeared, so how do they know at that point that the T-800s have failed? Also, why did Skynet feel that it owed
one thing about the T-800s, which is quite funny.
There's a lot of things wrong with this film if you're a fan of the franchise, let's leave it at that.
Also, the fact that T-800 doesn't melt with lava, which I thought was a pretty big thing. So technically, if they send this one back in time, that means that the whole thing doesn't get dissolved. But then, wait a second, that means they don't just find an arm, they probably actually bury the corpse if they did manage to destroy it, which would mean that Skynet wouldn't have just a single arm, which means that the Cyberdyne wouldn't have just enough. I see what you mean.
Fucking time paradox! It melts my brain. Why couldn't they just have left the Terminators alone and made a new film about robots killing people?
Because there's no money in that. Even though this film did finish second tonight in the museum too, that's a low blow.
Also, the humans seem to be very open about the Resistance, because there's that whole thing in Terminator 1 about how the Resistance has to live in tunnels because there's hunter killers going around everywhere, and they even say in the film that hunter killers have infrared and they're really good at night. And yet, there they are running around in the middle of the desert, they've got these huge hangars filled with hardware, and they're just kind of wandering in and out, and they're at the end of the film they just end up in the desert, and they're just out there in the middle of the desert in the open.
In the middle of the day, performing heart surgery.
Yeah,
as you do.
With no hassle from Skynet, which they've just completely tried to destroy.
Which they dealt a pretty considerable blow to.
Yeah, you'd think after they'd done something like that, Skynet would send out a few aircraft to try and take them down, but no. The more I think about it, the more this film annoys me, so I'm just going to stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about Terminator 3 instead. That makes this film look a lot better by comparison.
That's not what you said about 5 minutes ago.
Fuck, I hated Terminator 3.
The thing is, I'm going to keep on repeating it to myself because it's the only thing keeping it sane. At the end of the day, if you want to see a film, you're doing nothing that day, you fancy seeing a film, you fancy having a bit of action in it, you're not a big fan of Terminator, if you just fancy watching a film, don't really care what it is, this won't end your life and make you cry, unless you think about the time paradoxes too much. But yeah, it's distinctly average.
They should have made it about some other robots. Leave the Terminators alone!
Are you going to be okay?
I think so. I'm going to have to watch T2 tomorrow to cheer myself up. Terminator 5. McG is already talking up a 5th chapter in the Terminator franchise, and this time he wants to amp up the time travel element.
Oh god.
Quote, I strongly suspect that the next movie is going to take place in a pre-Judgment Day 2011, end quote.
What?
He shares in between quietly plotting how to shave even more syllables from his name. Quote, John Connor is going to travel back in time and he's going to have to galvanise the militaries of the world for an impending Skynet invasion. They've figured out time travel to the degree where they can send more than one naked entity. So you're going to have hunter killers and transports and harvesters and everything arriving in our time and Connor fighting back with conventional military warfare. It's going to be fucking awesome. No, it isn't! Leave Terminator alone, you bastard!
Calm down.
Ah!
I think the more this story is, McG, go back to the Charlie's Angels franchise.